All right. Happy 2024. How's everyone doing? Did you have a good holiday? It's really good to see all of you. Hope you're well rested. Took some time off. Be good. Yeah. Well, I decided to do the live a little later. I know you guys are used to me coming on live pretty early in the day, but I still have plenty of energy, even after a relatively long skating practice. So we may as well go ahead and get the world predictions for 2024 out of the way and talk about some cool things. Have you had a chance to really do a general overview of your year? Have you guys been working on that and thinking about just a really honest, authentic assessment of what you want to leave behind and what you want to manifest and bring forth, right? Would be a good idea to go into the 2024 with a really, really good idea of exactly what soul contracts you want to leave back in 2023. So 2024 holds a very powerful, we call it the path to peace. That energy is very peaceful and it's the start of a lot of peace. But because we've had 3 years post COVID of wars and difficult political strife and so many things, um, it's we want many people are wanting change that's more powerful, and you want it pow in your face, and you want that change, and you want it now, right? That's one of the things that my spirit guides, the Galactic Council of Nine, was explaining to me as I went into these predictions, and I took my time. Did not rush to get them out there. Right, might be one of the latest world predictions to come on. I didn't want to put it out there right on January the 1st because I wanted to give you some time to kind of look at older soul contracts and wipe that off, leave that in the dust, kind of take a really deep, honest assessment of how to leave that in the dust. So, with that in mind, I created a new 10-minute limited time only for January of 2024 soul contract reading. You don't have to show up. All I need is your picture. I don't even need your questions unless you have them. But I created this just for January for us to be able to talk about, for me to be able to read your Akashic record, read the soul contracts that you worked through in 2023, and get a chance to talk to you about what you'll be leaving behind and what you'll be carrying forth and what new contracts you might be endeavoring to master in this wonderful journey as well. So you will find that reading coming up on my website. I'll probably be posted tomorrow, but Anya's here. She'll give you a better idea of when we're going to post it. So I found it to be an essential offering as we do an honest assessment of what we learned from 2023 and what we're going to be endeavoring upon for soul contracts in work, love, getting to know your own soul, spiritual advancement as well. All of that. So that'll be posted for you tomorrow on my website. As a matter of fact, I should probably pin that for you, huh? There you go. Sorry. All right. Don't ask me questions just yet. Hold those questions because I won't be able to scroll up. There's a lot of predictions that we need to go over from my spirit team. I've been working with this team since age 5. And I really trust them. And one of the things that they trained me to do was to be able to go into the Akashic records and look at individual contracts, individual predictions and prophecies and visions, as well as collective contracts for the world, collective visions and prophecies. Every year I do this and I tell you some of the visions I had and what they mean. some of the predictions that will be coming forth. We tend to go through them month to month as well. But for the year, I'm glad because this particular year and the visions that accompany it from the council are different. It feels like a clean slate year. That is why I got this phrase from them and gave this in the title and description of this channeling, the path to peace. So the path to peace, it's still long. We still are in a peaceful world, but we're going to be making some subtle and radical progress this year in the energy of peace for our world, right? So these are some of the visions really talked about natural disasters, but also those natural disasters paving the way for more policy changes, more peaceful diplomats coming in and taking over during difficult times of illness. That was another thing that came up that we'll talk about here in a moment. We have some predictions for the 2024 election in the US. We have some predictions for Italy, France, California, Florida, and Thailand. We have some predictions about travel. We have some predictions about a virus that's similar to one we had back in 2020. I don't want to say names because that gets me flagged and YouTube gets pissed. We had some predictions about earthquakes again in California. It looks like a tough year for that. Some predictions about real estate, mortgage interest rates. What else? Extraterrestrial visitations for the year. And then an interesting banking institution breakdown and reformulation. I'm just going over some of the things we're going to talk about. Let's see, mortgage rates, interest loans. Okay. Yeah. Real estate predictions. An interesting thing with India and the US coming together for food and drug policy discussions for both of them and helping each other, which is wonderful. I know that they've been wonderful allies before, but I expect a powerful alliance this year as well. I know I keep doing this. I'm feeling such a heart chakra energy right now, coming forth as we go into the new year. And it's something like this is a heart chakra year, a deep advancement for many people who are working on personal healings and opening up of physical mediumship, empathy, natural healers. It's the year for advancements for individual natural healers wanting to develop that art. So there are a lot of things to cover. We have a revisit of Roe versus Wade. We have a new pharmaceutical law to cover as well. So if you don't mind, please don't ask me any predictions about cryptos yet. I do have some powerful predictions about crypto, particularly Cardano, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, but I want to hold those to the very, very, very end, if you don't mind, because it's a lot, and you guys come to me for many repeated predictions on that, and it looks really good. Really good, especially for Cardano, but we'll get there in a moment, so hold your questions. Again, there are some smaller, subtle, peaceful changes, as well as some radical changes this year. We have a little bit of both. And again, the council suggests patience when it comes to the desire for these bigger changes worldwide that many people are expecting. Again, they wanted me to stress to you that they know that you've been kind of really tired of a lot of things happening 2020, 2021, and 2023. But remember that even subtle changes indicate collectively a collective wonderful progress. And also it's helpful to remember that the biggest changes collectively do start from bigger changes in each individual's personal life at the individual soul level. So that's helpful if you want bigger changes than some of the small and big predictions that you see coming up. And we can get a little bit greedy for wanting more change, wanting more awakening, wanting more empowerment. And that energy is still really strong as we go into 2024, which is why we started this reading with the suggestion from the council to take a deep, honest assessment at how far you have come, just at kind of how far you've come, as opposed to always wanting more progress, more progress, more progress, right? Just take a a deep bow to yourself right now and be in deep gratitude for a lot of the changes that you've made individually and collectively over such a short amount of time in 2023, right? So don't push yourself this year. Take a breath and just be grateful and kind of go over some of the basics in your life, right? And when it comes to making bigger changes, kind of do them at a more comfortable, casual, but committed pace if you can as you go into the year. That's the overall general advice that they have to give you. Um, so here are some of the prophetic visions um, that I'm seeing come in from the council for 2024. Um, There was something to do. I'll go over this one first, even though I forgot to list it in the description. I call this my burning bush prediction, and it got my attention more than anything else did. So it was like, now, particularly when I get visions, they will try to capture my attention by making sure it's me personally in the prediction, but it is a metaphor for the larger collective. Just keep that in mind. So I was driving and I was driving my car and I was driving. I'm pretty comfortable driving in mountainous terrain, but I was speeding a little bit and kind of like overly comfortable, and 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 it was coming upon this time where the Western United States in particular were having a bunch of fires. Now, I did ask them, was that literal? And they said, yes, we are going to have a bunch of fires, particularly in Colorado, Washington, and Oregon. I always ask that 3 times, and I got the vision 3 times for all 3 states that would have the worst fires for the year. And it was like I was worried about as I was driving, like coming out of this fire zone. And also, like right now, they're saying that some things have shifted since I got this dream, that Utah's been added to that, unfortunately, with some pretty bad fires in southern Utah around a very powerful, not powerful, popular mountainous area there that has to do with Mount Zion. So St. George might have some fires outside, not exactly St. George, but more in Rockford and the towns as you go up the mountain there. Regardless, I was driving and I was worried about these fires, and I was worried, like, I'm just driving through. I'm just driving through, and I'm really comfortable with this territory. So the feeling overall with this prophetic vision was like, are these fires from these other parts of the world? Everyone has having so many fires in this area, and am I gonna am I going to is it going to catch up with me, or am I going to be safe to pass? And that was the overall energy of the dream. And suddenly I saw a bush. It wasn't a tree, it was a burning bush. Because that area of where I was driving doesn't have a lot of trees. It was a bush on the side of the road. And it distracted me. I saw a burning bush and it distracted me. And it was just one. And I was like, oh crap, does that mean we're going to get more fires and I'm not going to be able to pass? So the whole energy, that was like the biggest vision that I had for 2024, was that people on the spiritual awakening journey, on the spiritual awakening path, be mindful, because you're worried about, you know, you're pretty comfortable in your own path. I was very comfortable driving these mountainous curvy paths, probably a little too comfortable, but that's nonetheless. Um, and it was this feeling of looking around too much at the rest of the world versus not paying attention to the burning bush that was just like, and it's like, wow, I became afraid seeing that and worried that it was going to happen to me, and then manifested it right in front of me in this vision. And as a result, there was another car to my right, right? And this always represents our soul families, people we know, in our smaller circles, right? And in this case, collective inner circles of people on the spiritual path is what the council said it meant. Because I was so worried about that bush and how it would affect the world and if it was going to come into our path, I actually got too comfortable and was looking at that darn bush and almost drove off the road. And I ran into the bush and somehow managed to correct and didn't go off the road. But the person to the right of me went over the edge. I pushed them off the edge in this vision. So I asked 3 times and got the same 3 dreams in impeccable order and description. That's one of the ways that you know that your visions are true. For those of you who have visions, you need to follow the universal law of 3. So it's taught to me by many yogis in India that you need to ask the same question the same way with the same intention 3 times, and you must receive the same vision with the same energy and vocal inflection. Um, 3 times and get the same answer and the same energy of the dream, the same order of events, everything. Otherwise, the vision isn't true. So I got all that 3 times just to make sure it was true. And when I asked what that vision meant, it meant that it was a metaphor for those of us on the awakening journey being too worried about what's happening all over the world. We're worried that the world is burning down, and there's this fear that people are collectively carrying over from 2023 into 2024. And that fear is that we need to be worried about something that doesn't even personally affect us anymore. Right? We have this fear that we're carrying over of the world just burning to the ground. And I noticed that I had that corroborated in the same 3 days. I noticed what happens in my life as a prophetic visionary. If I get a dream and I get it, 3 times and I get the same energies and the same answers, the next 3 days are going to be very important insofar as how people respond to me and what they say, what their reactions are, and what circumstances happen. I had many people within those next 3 days coming forth and talking about, oh, don't worry about 2024, just go to 2025 because this year is just going to be shit. This year is just going to be terrible. And it's, the world is just on fire and the world's just going to burn and so many terrible things are going to happen. And in this prediction, I want you to understand that we have so many powerful radical changes that lend towards peace and quite a few subtle changes that lend towards peace as well. We still have just as many natural disasters, if not more, for 2024, but we also have so many powerful, subtle, and radical changes that lead us towards peace. And we need to be really thinking about that and really bringing that into not just our thought streams, but into the heart center. Because again, the path to peace is a heart chakra oriented year. We're going to have the primary dominant system for the year in our chakras that we're working through is the heart chakra. So it's important that you manage your thoughts, manage how you feel about what you want this year and where you're going, and pay more attention to your own personal path. Don't get too comfortable and then get focus people on the spiritual path in all the stuff going on in the rest of the world and then not driving properly and discerningly on your own spiritual path, not driving yourself. That's what that vision meant, driving yourself individually, right? Because you could unintentionally also lead others astray in your world, particularly channels and psychics and people who make predictions. It's going to be important to be ethical this year and to use the universal law of 3 and to not lead others astray based upon fear, right? That there are so many, you guys keep coming back. To looking at other people's prophecies and predictions. I'm seeing a lot of doom and gloom out there, and you guys keep coming back to me and saying, oh my gosh, there's so much doom and gloom in the 2024 predictions. I don't care. Follow your own heart. Don't pay attention to the burning bush elsewhere. That was like the biggest vision that they gave me. The biggest one is that we need to be mindful of making both subtle and radical changes in our own path and not get too comfortable, right? But to mind our own energies and to make these changes in our own lives and to learn to be grateful and happy right where we are while also driving ahead with self-esteem, a soul esteem, and in a way that's being mindful of others around us. Mindful for their peace and their right to sovereignty. A lot of the classes that we're covering this month on my Patreon channel has to do with finding your truth, finding your sovereignty, staying in your lane, right? Stay in your lane, not minding other people's reactions to you or gossip, but stay in your lane spiritually. But what's more important even than that is staying in your lane in terms of making sure that what you're predicting, and how you're sharing your visions, channels, and healers, is really ethical and really empowering and really peace bringing. We need to be bringers of peace. So, is what you're channeling going to provide someone with inspiration for more peace in their lives? That would be something that I will hold to this year. That is my promise to you. And I would like for you to consider making a vow to yourself. I work with a lot of masterful healers and not a lot of beginners that come to me. Most people, you guys are incredibly, brilliantly talented healers and channels and psychics. And I would really like for you to start out the year in deep gratitude for where you are, and to just take a look back and just pat yourself on the back, not in ego, but just for how far you've come this year and for the hard work you put into it, and be mindful of making subtle and radical changes. And when you make videos and share your content this year and work individually, and when you do your retreats and your larger workshops this year, and your larger conferences and teachings as well, I'd like for you to be mindful that you are inspiring, encouraging, and bringing about wonder and a path to peace in all of your spiritual work on this planet. That was the ultimate thing that I got for this first vision. Okay, I also got many visions. I'm not gonna go over the specifics of how many because there were about 13 visions. 13 is a very sacred number for me to know exactly what's true. So I got 13 visions about water, particular natural disasters, water related, for areas of Naples, Florida, for areas of Southern California, and for areas of Thailand, and a little bit of some ports in Italy as well, with water damage there, particularly for Florida, right smack in hurricane season. For California, one of them that I saw already happened. And then another one's coming up in about 2.5 weeks with some major water damages to waterfront property in California again. We're having a lot of, you know, inner, like earth is shaking and quaking, a lot of earthquakes this year, and some false tsunami alarms for Thailand that end up where the water retreats coming up in September, and then again in December, and again in January for Thailand. That would be early January 2025. All right. I saw an interesting vision that lent toward that was lending towards, like, the vision was stop signs and planes, and stop signs over trains. So I got each of those visions 3 times in 3 months. And when I asked what it was, I got, oh, please hold your questions, please. I will not be reading chat right now, because I just want to get through the ton of visions that I do have to share with you first. Um, Travel will be halted for small amounts of time, anywhere from 24 hours up to 3 days at a time, 24, 48, and 72 hours. So travel will be halted both for trains and planes this year, particularly once in April, twice in June. Those were the months that it came up for predictions. And it's halted, like, what they're telling you. I have to be so cautious on a public forum because, it's like what they're saying, the reason for isn't exactly what the council is saying the reason for the halting is. So there's these unusual changes in the geomagnetic environment and geomagnetic energy fields this year, and that has to do with the shifting of, and the slight shifting, the slight rotational shifting in the Earth's axis, and with that, that creates these geomagnetic energy field changes, and then it would be unsafe because the instruments can't keep up on the planes and trains. So there's some things going on with that, and there'll be some temporary groundings and halts to travel that won't last for very long. So if you find yourself in a halt, just get a hotel and ride it out. It'll be fine. No major, huge changes, coming up with that this year. Let's see what else. So there is a sea-like virus that's making its way around the world this winter, coming up relatively soon. So that could start really getting big and getting horrible for most people. It's starting now, but it really gets bad around the 15th of February for this C-like deviation virus. Now, the council isn't predicting any lockdowns, but some temporary mask requirements when you go inside your doctor's offices, and some temporary mask requirements for travel only during this time. But it really is like by the time we get past spring, midway through spring, it's like falls flat and everyone's scared. And I feel like when I got the vision of this one, it looked like a deviation of the same virus. You know, it's not something that someone needs to, you know, go make another, medicine for or anything like that. I don't want to get too deep in all that because everybody has their own belief systems. Um, Earthquakes will be particularly tough this year. I did get a really terrible vision for California, a really terrible earthquake around the San Francisco area in mid-July, 7:15 for those numbers that came in for that vision. Okay. Um, Real estate becomes a lot more affordable, particularly for mortgage interest rates dropping around the third week of July, between the third and the fourth week of July um, for 2024. So you can expect if you're looking to buy a home, I would wait because you will get um, just rising of the interest rates, and then it just interestingly drops. Particularly as we prepare for the election, there's some weird things that happen. And, when weird things happen politically, the country just kind of halts and people get afraid. And then you could use that to your benefit to get a cheaper mortgage. So if you're trying to buy a home, I would wait it out a little bit. There is another thing that came across in a vision was that there is an unpredictable illness coming across after a US White House win when the person is in only for 60 days. And it's not Trump. So that pretty much tells you who's going to win. But then somebody else has to take over. Somebody else has to take over. Now, they were not really telling me if the person who takes over, if they're taking over just as a step in or if they're taking over permanently, but they have to step in for a long enough time that it could be considered that people would need to like really look at this. So someone steps in lieu of a president after only 60 days of a win and only 60 days of him being in the White House. Right? You're going to love this. I got that this would be a big year for the unveiling of child sex trafficking high profile people in 2024, 4 in major governments and 2 from major religious organizations. So that's a big unveiling, big, big, big. And that was around September of 2024. All right. Insofar as extraterrestrial visitations, there will be 13 documented extraterrestrial visitations to Earth in 2024. Now, bear with me because not everything is televised. All 13 around the world, 6 of them are blocked from the news, but the rest are going to be discussed on major news channels and all over the internet with videos and people freaking out and so many visions on this one throughout the course of the whole year. I got these visions and I kept getting them multiple times. So the Pentagon comes out with another public statement about the existence of ETs and their involvement in it, this time without bringing so much fear into the equation. This time, they're more curious about the intentions versus assuming that the intentions of the beings landing the ships are actually negative. So there's that. Let's see what else. This was interesting. Between May and June of 2024, I had visions for these months as being a downfall and with some legal issues for a major banking institution that a lot of people use in the US. So with this downfall, because of the legal issues of this bank, a group of young investors create this new coin. And it's backed by Italy primarily, and it's backed in a green way. And Italy, diplomats in Italy and investors and diplomats in both Italy and the US merge into one powerful banking organization, which gives its members in both countries the ability to invest powerfully from each country into another country and trade in a way that doesn't limit them in taxes and also protects them from more taxation. So it gives its members the ability to invest powerfully, even with little money to put down. That was the other thing. Like, you didn't need to have a ton of money to invest to be able to do this. So when that comes out, get that while you can. You do not want to miss that. You just really don't, no matter what country you live in, but particularly if you're in the US or Italy. Mortgage loans as a whole become easier to get for Americans and for citizens of France. Okay. So would be a good time. For the US, it would be a good time in July and October to get a mortgage. And for France, it would be a good time in April and June. So that's when your changes come that make that easier. I had another vision about farmers and people responsible for farming policy and Food and Drug Administration policy in a way that, like, as if the two organizations needed to work together more, in both India and US, coming together to discuss both food administration policy for permaculture. India actually schooling the US on permaculture, and the US actually taking their information and being very thankful and implementing it powerfully. And they were implementing two new permacultural systems that they got advice from India about. And this will allow for more opportunities for unique types of permaculture in the suburbs in the Midwestern US. And then it begins to spread over the course of the next 4 years. This will be a wonderful thing that will go and spread all over the US. So that's good. Thank you in advance, India. Let's see. Women's rights make some powerful shifts this year as the US brings to light abuse of women in two Middle Eastern countries. And these two lands are fighting against each other currently. So one of these Middle Eastern lands gives women more of a right to make decisions about their way of dress, particularly with the covering of the head and the burqa, about voting rights, which are non-existent primarily in both of these countries, and about their personal freedoms to marry who they want, right? So it's the beginning of the peace. Like I said, is the path to peace. So the path to peace comes from women's rights in both of these two countries, and it begins in subtle ways this year. It's similar to a turnover, but it's not a turnover in our next subject and topic of predictions, not an exact turnover of Roe versus Wade, but a reconsideration of something very similar, but not the exact revisiting of the case, just something similar. And this situation begins some shifting, particularly in women's rights to get abortions in 4 states that were formerly pro-life only. So this could trickle into more states, giving women the right back to their own bodies and their own choices for abortion or not. And then the final larger prediction that came through had to do with a new pharmaceutical law that comes into consideration regarding affordability for psychiatric medications. And it begins to be put up on the table for consideration. And by June of 2025, it'll be in full effect, which it's forcing American insurance companies to cover necessary psychiatric medication when the doctor says so, when the doctor approves it, versus the doctor saying, hey, go take this antipsychotic, and then you can't have it because it's, $450, right? So there's that. I also got a vision about new laws that cover some information in terms of your right for your pharmacist to talk about non-allopathic herbal medications, for your pharmacist to not just be able to throw you off. They actually have to tell you if you're taking an allopathic medication and you're considering taking it, or what counterindications are involved. So there's that. And then just three different uplifting of, I don't know what you call this in pharmaceuticals, but when the big pharma withholds the right for you to to take certain things, like particularly when you're in the hospital and the doctor says you can't have that because that's herbal. There's something that will be revisited and passed with a law with that this year. So again, subtle changes head in a big direction for peace. Yeah. All right. Now I will take your questions about world predictions and I will call in the Council of Nine. This is something that I really love to do towards the end of sharing that, the majority of the predictions. Overall, like I said, it would be a path to peace, particularly for those of you on the spiritual journey. Again, remembering that advice from the council to everything you shared this year should be encouraging and promoting wonder and peace for people. That was their advice to you. Okay, New Zealand, we'll use some oracle cards to go into that. If you guys prefer tarot, let me know, but I do slightly better, or a lot better actually, with the oracle because there's some minor arcana that I haven't learned yet. Okay, New Zealand. Overall, New Zealand is unturning a very veiled consciousness. So you have the fog oracle card in the reverse karmic position, but this means actually that you're overturning a spiritual veil this year. So it's the beginning. It's a subtle thing. It's not a major thing, but most people individually are becoming more unveiled. Now, and that will be like an effortless connection. Most people throughout the majority of New Zealand who are on a spiritual journey will go deeper on that journey and it will become more effortless for them to connect to their soul. However, collectively speaking, the majority of New Zealand is still not in reverence. As a whole, collectively, you're not really connected collectively. So we still need to work on that. New Zealand as a whole will get a lot more creative when it comes to self-employment opportunities insofar as government regulations and people really being on board for creative self-created opportunity and self-employment opportunities. And also New Zealand giving a lot more permission for people to creatively make decisions about their work, a lot more permissions to work from home. That's coming up in this card as well. New Zealand as a whole, individually, people are beginning to put forth more boundaries between their employer-employee relationship so that they do have more of a creative journey and that they feel more respected by the corporate world and by their bosses and upper and mid-management. What New Zealand needs to work on right now is still like a lack of self-acceptance in terms of how you're feeling about your ancestors. That is definitely something that we need to work on in New Zealand. How you're feeling. There's a lot of strife in terms of a misunderstanding about the ancestors and their connection to the land. So that needs to be looked at this year because it's still a bit of a block. All right. For Spain, let's kind of take a look at some of the soul contracts that Spain will be going through individually and collectively. Okay, so Spain has some really outdated political structures and religious structures that still need to be looked at individually and collectively. Individually, people still don't trust their own choices to go deeper into the spiritual realm or to trust their right to be equal in religion and to worship how they want to, primarily because there's still a lot of religious structures in power in Spain that are not. It's like toxic masculine. We have the feminine card in the reverse position, showing that there's still a lot of toxic masculine in the overall structures in spirituality and religion in Spain in 2024. And people aren't really making the commitment to choice and self. We have the commitment card in the reverse position and the right choice card in the reverse position. So it means you don't trust your individual choices. Therefore, you don't commit to a spiritual journey. We need to work on that, Spain. All right. Let's see. Australia. You know, we have the nutrition card in the reverse position. So in this realm, in this one way, this is something that Australia needs to work on for the year that they haven't. Just being able to feel like you can trust your systems of food, drug administration, and farming. You still don't, and there are good reasons why. So if you don't trust the food, drug administrations in your country for whatever those names are given, I don't know what names are given to your systems. If you don't trust, you might have good reason, but it might be time for you to look at what you're eating individually, what in your families, how you're taking in from food. And if you don't like it, then it might be a really good time to grow your own food. You have a lot of soil that's regenerating in your country after all those fires, and it's nourishing the lands. The lands are going to be more plentiful, less fires, more water. In Australia in 2024. And with more rains coming, you'll have more of an opportunity to grow your own food. So let's stop waiting on other people to feed us, Australia. You have some wonderful weather coming that will give you an opportunity to grow your own food and to take your own nutrition in your own hands. Now we get the Destiny card and the Divine Masculine Power card. Oisin is a dragon that's known as the king of all dragons, and he is confident and great leadership. So what this is showing for me this year, the council's saying this is indicating a powerful leader being elected in your country in 2024 that makes some really, really good, powerful changes, that is in the destiny for a new leader, that to make new changes where people can trust this being. So good for you. Let's see, who did we have coming up next? Scotland, sure. Environmental policy and protection isn't as strong as it isn't a strong year for environmental policy and protection for Spain. So that's hard. That's hard because it used to be so green and it's not that way in 2024. So here's the fun news. Childhood education flourishes. There are some laws that shift in the rights to teachers to really be more trusted by their administration. And it's like the early childhood education system in particular is going to be really wonderful with these changes happening in Scotland for 2024. But what you do need to work on that you're not really celebrating yourself and being able to let loose and play and have fun. We have the dance celebration card in the reverse karmic position. So please work on that, Scotland. It's like you're all work, no play 2024. Can we calm down and balance out your work family life and kind of get some rest and play? Right? Okay. Oregon, like I said, you have some fires. You have more fires than the rest of the world for 2024. Let's look at some of the soul contracts associated with Collective Oregon in 2024. All right. For 2024 in Oregon, your divine feminine is just on fire in a good way. So it's like burning away what's no longer necessary in toxic divine masculine in the state of in the area of Oregon, and divine feminine flourishing, particularly in creative arts and spiritual arts, and even athletes in Oregon is having more power in the divine feminine there. So it's like that love from Divine Mother is flourishing and transforming you. And despite the fact that you have a lot of fires, you rise from it powerfully. People are working together, and Oregon becomes a powerful example of divine feminine working together and being compassionate and helping each other this year. All right. Okay, now Joe Nellis, because I'm not a geography buff, it wasn't my yeah. Don't use initials. Just like spell everything out. All right. Um, Puerto Rico. Sure. There's a lot of wonderful shifting where people are working together collectively in Puerto Rico in 2024, particularly in environmental law and green law. But individually speaking, you're going against your own instincts sometime to do so. Overall, Puerto Rico is going to be a leader in 2024 for nurturing Gaia and for taking care of Gaia. So you will have a powerfully good year. Um, let's see, are there going to be earthquakes in Northern California? Let's ask the council. Yeah, and it's a year where people have to come together because there are some terrible earthquakes in California as a whole, particularly in San Francisco and in Northern California. So people who have made a home there, you might want to when you will get the warnings, but it's like they're not fast enough. So there are some home loss in Northern California, particularly in June. And I got it even followed up by the revelation card, which often tells me that the prediction is true, just like a confirmation of the prediction being true. Let's see. Okay, Nevada. So Nevada, it's like so much love, so much like energy of divine sisterhood and people coming together to help each other. There are some laws that end up coming into consideration, and on the path towards peace, on the path towards approval of these laws for receiving more when you're out of work. I don't know what you call that, like welfare systems. But in welfare systems, like being able to receive more when you need time off, that's one of them. Pregnant women and fathers as well. Um, and then like welfare when you've lost your job is the consideration like at the beginnings of extending that. However, it's like, okay, we'll say yes to that, but then you get the lion and the deer showing up saying, but you get that, but then there's other things. There's sacrifices involved in that. You may get a yes for that and a no for something else, more taxes in other areas. So that's harder. I mean, that's like the way that US tax structures go anyway. If they give you something, a little bit of extra money somewhere else, and they tax another portion for it. But this felt a little stronger than that. It felt sort of like, yeah, you can have it, but then we don't get as much WIC. Yeah, you can have it, but then we don't get as much here in TANF. It's kind of silly. It's hard. It's good news, but also bad news for another portion. It's like you may be able to get more welfare systems and less of a waiting list as well for HUD housing, but then you get less WIC. That's one of the things coming up right now, less WIC orientation for and an ability to receive that for moms in and new moms in Nevada. Israel, when I looked at it overall, I will also show you, and we cover that a little bit insofar as women's rights. Israel is out of their power in 2024. They don't win what's currently going on. They fall out of power. Granted, both of the nations come together because they end up just almost obliterating each other, and then they stop fighting because everyone's tired of dying. So Israel is losing more than Palestine in this and has more to lose, but then Israel gets a rebirth. and then a deep reconnection to spirituality thereby. So it's like, okay, you lose the war, but then both countries come together, work together to share power and for a rebirth of the situation. So for the first time this year, you get a peace policy that's actually implemented and not retracted. All right. Okay, predictions on silver. Cryptos looked really good, but I'll get there after this. Good news and bad news. And this pretty much aligned with most of my visions that I got for silver for 2024 is it's going to be a really good time to invest in silver. And it would be a very nurturing idea for your future to shine some light into your future to invest in silver for this year. It will be a good time, particularly around October when rates are at their lowest. But some people are kind of, and this was just kind of an aside card that came up where the council is saying, okay, it won't heal everything just because of that. When societies begin to fall, just because you have a bunch of silver doesn't mean you're going to be protected. Keep that in mind as well. Let's see. Oh, I told you I was going to do. So the visions I got for Cardano were very, very interesting. Bottoming out for the majority of December, January, and then going into a powerful phase. Like if you want to invest in Cardano, it'll be at its lowest on the very last day of January 2024. And then it has this immediate, like typically Cardano is like, slow up, slow down, slow up, slow down. But it's like a plummeting. Like you think it's low today, it's going to keep going. And then it makes an immediate rise by February the 15th around 7 p.m. Eastern time. Day traders, keep an eye on that. My guys are very specific about trading. And it's so interesting. Like I'm personally not allowed to benefit. That's the only reason why I can be so accurate is because I don't get a chance to, like, even if I make money for you, I'm not allowed to take anything from you or my gifts from that will be taken. So let's look at Ethereum. Ethereum had some interesting, powerful growth cycles this year, and then a lot of flatlining as well. A lot of kind of like, yeah, it's not going down. It's just not going anywhere. By March of next year, there's a big plummet that people don't expect in Ethereum specifically. On March the 16th at 3:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, buy in. It's a really good time. We got the light card. Looking at the big picture, Ethereum is the council's hands down favorite cryptocurrency. And for wonderful reasons. So overall, if you miss this opportunity, I'm so sorry because that is the lowest that you're going to get for the entire year. I followed it the whole year and it did not get lower. So if you want to buy in, now's your time. Insofar as the highest, I got that one, interestingly enough, 2 different days coinciding with 11/11, November the 1st and November the 11th were the 2 high points for Ethereum for 2024. Weird. I love, when it corresponds because I feel like it means something for what the world's going through. And when I took that information, I got that we were also deeply shifting, like a huge shift energetically for collective people who are awakening on Earth around those times as well for 2024. So that seemed to be interesting because I view Ethereum as a very ethical, light-oriented coin for those of you who are awake. All right, so for Bitcoin, let me see if I can get my cards to correspond to the image that I saw, see if they want to, making sure that it's still the same. For Bitcoin, the lowest of the low that you're going to get is March the 3rd and March the 11th of 2024. Those are your opportunities to buy in. You're not going to get any lower points than that. All right. If you miss that, there's kind of the second lowest for that is also right before it's on right before as you head in November on the last day of October is going to be another low point, although not quite as low as the prior. All right. And insofar as highest points, Bitcoin, it's like I got the Revelation card again, just showing accuracy that Bitcoin is destined to be the primary card for Earth as a whole. is just destined to win, and it's going to get really, really big. It's going to ground out in a powerful way, and have its highest point on December the 15th of 2024. Right? Okay. Let's see our time. We only have a few more minutes left. Let me see. Anybody else have any questions? Metformin, I have gotten 2 out of 3 of the of the similar dreams for metformin news. There is something shifting with metformin for 2024, I can tell, but I'm waiting on that 3rd dream before I can tell you it. And that's just how I roll. If I do not get information from my prophecies and visions 3 times, specifically in 3 certain ways, I won't tell you the prediction until it happens. But it's 2 out of 3. Something's happening. I know it's gonna come. So when it does, I will tell you, but there are some changes on it. I'm glad that you brought that up because I had forgotten about this one. And I have a friend who's on this drug, and I'm like on the fence about whether to tell her because she loves the drug and I have to like pray about this. But there is a new diabetes drug on the market that actually is unsafe, and it will be linked with strokes and potential to strokes, but they don't get there towards testing it until late 2024, and it will take them 2 years. I have had 16 dreams about this drug because I was interested in this drug, and anybody that's trying to lose weight is interested in this drug because it also um, it's an injection, whatever it is. I don't think it starts with T, I don't remember. But it's new, and it is an injection, and just be mindful of that. It has and they're people are losing weight like mad on it, but it's dangerous, and it corresponds with the potentiality for strokes. That's it, Gloria. Manjaro? That's it. I remembered the J in it and the sound. Thank you. And my guides are confirming that that was it. Um, I yeah, because I got interested in it, and my guys are like, don't fall for that. Lose weight the right way. It's okay. Lose weight slowly. It's all right." Yeah, oh my goodness. Okay, Chantel, thank you for the super chat. She says, "Does the council anticipate imminent light being, spirit, or high dimensional disclosures occurring around the world to boost human awareness?" What is your idea of disclosure, Chantel? Because there are 13 extraterrestrial landings and 6 of it ends up in the news. Did you see that part of my prediction? So what is your idea of disclosures? Like my idea of a disclosure might appear soft compared to what you're looking for, right? So does disclosure mean that the government's going to admit it? Like, right? Because sightings, there are 13 of them and 6 of them make it into the news all over the world, not just in the US, and people are posting about it all over. It'll be an ET year. It'll be a year of ET sightings and disclosures, 6 major ones throughout the course of 2024, and even another statement from the Pentagon. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So a lot. And then some interesting disclosure with child sex trafficking as well for the year. Go backwards on that prediction. I think you're just coming in late. But yeah, there's some disclosure with that as well. Yeah. And the individual sightings, they're not just 1 or 2 or 3 or people in the area. Like they happen, like there are some of those, but primarily the sightings are in bigger cities this year. It's not like, oh, some random town in the middle of New Mexico where only 50 people and 400 cows live there. I mean, like Los Angeles is one of them, right? I'm sorry, raising my voice. I get super excited about this kind of thing. Los Angeles was one of the cities on the list to have a major sighting that people could, like all of Los Angeles saw it. Right? Now, LA is somewhat awake. Somewhat. That's debatable, but the council thinks they're somewhat awake, right? XRP, didn't we already go over that XRP? I thought we did. They're UFOs. They're all planes landing, and some people are having unique encounters and contacts with the beings. So it's a bit of both, but all of them are landings or things in the sky that come very close to landing. It's crazy. It's almost unbelievable. I kept asking. I kept asking because I'm like, "Are you sure that we're gonna have that kind of year?" But we are. And that all the beings that are coming seem to be wanting to help us. I did not feel any malice in the beings that were coming, right? Yeah. Any app substituting YouTube? It comes close. It comes close. Let me pull cards on that for you to see if the council will cooperate with our visuals. It comes close, but it's not fully activated. Around July begins some testing of it and some implementation of it, but then it isn't approved for internet use this year. So close but no cigar, council says for that. Why ETs as opposed to ascended masters? Well, the council says that if we rely upon ascended masters, then we don't ascend ourselves. There are so many archangels and ascended masters that are right here bound to earth. Ascended masters and archangels are now bound to help you, and they are no more powerful than you, except that they've already been through things, right? So they're not here to save us. The ETs are there to help us understand equality and help us understand that we are going to become just on that same scale as ascended masters, right? That's the point of this year from the spiritual perspective, collectively. And if ETs come down, there's more of a chance for equality than ascended masters. Do you understand their answer? Yeah. Like, because we are ascending into our own mastery. And if we get counted on gods and deities and ascended masters and angels to do stuff for us, then we don't get far. But simultaneously, ETs are more interested in us in 2024 because we're getting ready to pull there are so many near misses with people pressing the red button for nuclear disaster. Granted, that won't happen. All right. We're on a path to peace this year, but it's because of ET intervention that we're on a path for peace, because they can't have us destroy this earth with nuclear devastation, because that has a long-standing etheric effect throughout all of the cosmos. That affects not just us, but all of the life forms around us everywhere, right? And all the ETs that are here to help us, that affects them too. And those on their starships helping us, from the cosmos, orbiting our planet, helping us. It affects them, right? All those fleet commanders that are so diligently there in the fleets and in the stars, like watching us and giving us different sciences and technologies and spiritual awakenings and activations. That affects them. That blows them up too, possibly. So we can't do that. So we need ET assistance at this point. Yeah. Yeah. All right. We've been at it for an hour, so I think I'm going to close. Thank you so much for your time, for coming and supporting this channel. And again, please don't forget about the limited time offer for the soul contract readings, looking at all of your karma from last year and what was healed and what's being carried over and what new contracts you have. Check out my website. That'll be that new limited time soul contracts for 2024 reading will be only throughout the month of January, and we will be posting that tomorrow. And as always, there are tons of other discounted readings on that site as well right now, because we're still on holiday rates. So enjoy that. Thank you for your support. I'll see you on Patrons. I will see you tomorrow. My Patreon channel is linked up top. We'll be doing a channeling of Jesus tomorrow to talk about finding our personal truth and getting a deeper understanding of our purpose. I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll see you this week on YouTube as well. Bye-bye.